London, 2012. Other than 17-year-old Jonathan Antoine, shy and visibly nervous, stepped onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent alongside his duet partner Charlotte Giaconelli, completely unaware that the next few minutes would redefine his entire life. As the first notes of the prayer filled the theater, what followed stunned both the judges and millions watching at home. An operatic voice so rich and haunting that even Simon Cowell, notoriously difficult to impress, was momentarily speechless before offering one of his most sincere praises on air. The clip went viral overnight, catapulting the duo from anonymous students to global sensations. Cowell quickly signed them under his label, Psycho, offering a £1 million record deal and branding them as the next classical crossover phenomenon. For Jonathan, the sudden wave of adoration seemed like a dream. But behind the curtain of applause was a young man battling anxiety, self-image issues, and the weight of being seen as the next Pavarotti. At an age when most teens were still trying to figure out who they were. As the world celebrated his once-in-a-generation voice, few realized the pressure building behind the high notes. 2 years after the whirlwind success of Britain's Got Talent, the public was stunned by a sudden announcement in 2014. Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli were parting ways professionally to pursue solo careers, a decision that instantly sparked speculation about behind-the-scenes tensions or creative disagreements that had been carefully hidden behind polished performances and smiling faces. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What really happened? According to industry sources close to the pair's management at the time, while the duo maintained a strong musical connection, Jonathan reportedly struggled with the persistent pressure to perform as part of a brand rather than as an individual, feeling increasingly boxed into a carefully curated image by the label, an image that may not have fully reflected his evolving identity as both an artist and a person. Beneath the surface, he was quietly dealing with social anxiety and a growing sense of alienation, even amid standing ovations and sold-out shows. Interestingly, Simon Cowell, who had championed them early on, is said to have respected their decision and refrained from pressuring them to stay together, offering a rare moment of empathy in an industry often driven more by profit than by the well-being of its stars. Jonathan's solo journey began shortly after, but it didn't come without challenges. The weight of having to prove himself outside of the duo only intensified the internal battles he had been carrying since his teenage years. In a quiet but deeply personal revelation, Jonathan Antoine shared in 2023 that he had been officially diagnosed with autism, a disclosure that not only shocked many longtime fans but also added a new layer of understanding to his past struggles, both on and off stage. Speaking with striking vulnerability in interviews, Jonathan described the diagnosis as a moment of liberation, finally offering a lens through which he could make sense of the emotional turbulence and miscommunications that had plagued his early years in the spotlight. For years, he admitted, he had felt out of sync with the world around him, misinterpreted by peers, overwhelmed by sensory environments, and often lost in internal overthinking that no one seemed to fully grasp. In hindsight, this newly understood neurodivergence explained why fame, with its chaotic demands, crowded spaces, and unrelenting attention, felt not just exhausting, but sometimes unbearable. Fans were quick to rally behind him, expressing both surprise and admiration, while mental health advocates praised his openness as a powerful step toward breaking stigma in the entertainment industry. Still, as Jonathan himself noted, the diagnosis was only the beginning of a longer journey, coming to terms with what it meant, reassessing how he related to his art, and perhaps most importantly, learning how to advocate for himself in a world that had long misunderstood the signs that something deeper was going on beneath the surface. While his voice soared with timeless power, Jonathan Antoine's physical appearance remained an unavoidable focal point in media coverage, and over the years, the singer faced intense scrutiny regarding his weight, often couched in concern but delivered with the cruelty of public expectation. In multiple interviews, Jonathan acknowledged that his relationship with food and body image had long been complex, shaped by anxiety, emotional strain, and the suffocating pressure of having to look a certain way in an industry that rarely offers grace to those who fall outside conventional standards. More recently, fans began noticing changes, a slimmer frame, a more confident posture, and a softer glow in his public appearances, prompting speculation that he had embarked on a personal wellness journey. Confirming these changes, Jonathan explained that his shift wasn't driven by image but by survival, a quiet battle to reclaim ownership over his health. Not for applause, but for peace. He spoke candidly about the intersection between mental and physical health, describing how emotional lows often triggered unhealthy cycles and how healing required him to approach his body with the same patience and compassion he had long given to his art. Despite the tabloid noise, his journey wasn't a dramatic transformation for the cameras, but a gradual process of learning how to live more gently with himself, day by day, a truth that resonated deeply with fans who had followed not just his career, but his quiet resilience behind the curtain. As Jonathan Antoine quietly navigated his personal growth and inner healing, the digital world spun a far more chaotic narrative, one that in typical internet fashion blurred the line between curiosity and cruelty. Sensational headlines began to emerge, suggesting that Jonathan had vanished, spiraled out of control, or worse, that something tragic had occurred behind closed doors. Some viral posts even claimed that Simon Cowell had broken down in tears on live television after hearing of Jonathan's supposed downfall, fueling speculation that bordered on hysteria. Yet upon closer examination, there was no evidence to support these claims. No confirmed reports of a collapse, no televised moment of breakdown, and no statement from Cowell himself referencing such an event. What remained was a growing collage of misinformation, clickbait tactics, and public projections, assumptions shaped more by drama-hungry algorithms than by truth. And while Jonathan's real-life challenges were indeed profound, they were not the tragic collapse the internet tried to script. Mental health diagnoses, weight fluctuations, and time away from the public eye were spun into a fictional downfall rather than recognized as courageous steps toward healing. The danger of these distorted narratives lies in how easily they overshadow reality. The story of a young man confronting his vulnerabilities head-on, not disappearing into them. For every false claim, there was a quieter truth waiting to be heard, that Jonathan wasn't unraveling, he was rebuilding. From the moment Jonathan Antoine first stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2012, Simon Cowell's reaction was pivotal, not just professionally but emotionally, as he immediately recognized the raw, untamed brilliance in the teenage singer's operatic voice and offered both praise and a life-changing record deal. Over the years, their paths would diverge, but Cowell's role as the gatekeeper who opened the industry to Jonathan has never been forgotten by fans. As rumors swirled online about Cowell allegedly breaking into tears upon hearing of Jonathan's personal struggles, particularly his autism diagnosis and ongoing health battles, the question lingered: how much did Cowell know, and how deeply did it affect him? While there is no televised footage confirming such an emotional breakdown, insiders and longtime viewers suggest that Cowell, who has softened significantly in recent years from his once hard-edged persona, may very well have been privately moved by Jonathan's journey. Industry observers note that Cowell has increasingly spoken out about the mental toll of fame, particularly on young talent, a perspective perhaps shaped in part by witnessing the real-life challenges faced by former contestants like Jonathan. Whether or not tears were ever shed on live TV, the emotional bond between talent and mentor, forged in a moment of musical magic and complicated by fame's hidden weight, remains etched in the public memory. And if Simon Cowell did weep, it wouldn't have been over a failed career, but perhaps over the unseen cost of brilliance in a system that demands perfection from the imperfectly human. Today, Jonathan Antoine stands not as a fallen prodigy, but as a quietly resilient artist who has redefined what success means on his own terms, far from the glare of television spotlights and viral headlines. Having embraced both his voice and his neurodiversity, he now approaches music not as an obligation, but as a sanctuary, a place where authenticity finally outweighs performance. In recent years, Jonathan has returned to the stage with new material and refreshed presence, performing in intimate concerts that highlight not only his vocal power, but also his emotional transparency. He's released solo albums, collaborated with orchestras, and maintained a close connection with his fan base through heartfelt interviews and honest reflections, many of which touch on mental health, identity, and the complexities of growing up in front of a nation. While mainstream media may not cover every step of his evolution, Antoine's supporters continue to witness something far more meaningful than a comeback. They're witnessing a reawakening. No longer confined to the mold of child star or opera sensation, he's charting a path as a fully realized person. One who's been vulnerable, challenged, misrepresented, but never defeated. In a world obsessed with overnight fame and dramatic collapses, Jonathan's story offers something rare, a second act built not on spectacle, but on survival and self-acceptance. Jonathan Antoine's story isn't one of collapse. It's one of quiet defiance in the face of mislabeling, public distortion, and the unrelenting pressure to perform not just on stage, but in life. From his awe-inspiring debut on national television to his deeply personal revelations about health and identity, he has walked a path few see clearly and even fewer truly understand. The image of Simon Cowell shedding tears, whether literal or symbolic, captures more than just a mentor's emotional response. It reflects an entire industry coming to terms with the unintended consequences it leaves on gifted yet vulnerable souls. Antoine's voice may have opened doors, but it's his resilience, his honesty, and his continued presence that now speak louder than any note he's ever sung. As audiences, perhaps the real question we should ask isn't what happened to Jonathan Antoine, but whether we, as a culture, were ever ready to listen beyond the performance. Because behind every standing ovation is a human being, and behind every flawless note, a story waiting to be heard, if only we care enough to listen.